Today, the Tánaiste Leo Varadkar said that the 2 weeks that we were given to consider the deal around the new National Maternity Hospital were given to look at what additional safeguards could be added. And that question remains to you, Minister. What additional safeguards can be added? Now, I'm standing here because I'm sore sitting. We're sitting at long meetings about this issue all week. And I'll sit at more of them all next week and the week after if necessary. But we have to make progress. And the progress we have to make has to be contained around a certain amount of honesty and openness, more honesty and more openness than we've been having. Yesterday, it was very interesting to hear the clinicians and the consultants who deliver the services to women who are very anxious to get this hospital built, as I think are all decent-minded people in the country, anxious to get this hospital built. And they have fought long and hard to get that hospital built, and they outlined to us very clearly why the current facilities are inadequate. But I still am not convinced that there isn't something deeply, deeply wrong about this deal that hasn't been addressed or resolved, and that the information we've been provided has simply highlighted and crystallised that concern for us. And despite assertions from the Government and yourself, Minister, that this new state-funded facility built by the state in the coming years will be truly state-owned and solely state-controlled, that, as I pointed out to you yesterday, is refuted by St Vincent's Healthcare Group. They, in their fact sheet, say the opposite to the way you're putting it across. And in fact, yesterday was interesting because, again, we were drip-fed more information that we hadn't already got on the table. For example, that there will be facilities that are not pertaining to maternity or reproductive care located in the new National Maternity Hospital because other areas of the existing hospital will have been discommoded, and the facilities for, I understand, dermatology, but it wasn't clear whether that was to be private or public dermatology wards or departments or suites or consultant rooms or whatever in the new National Maternity Hospital. But that flies in the face of the excuse that is given to us consistently why we need the words clinically appropriate in the deal, why we need them repeated 6 times all over the deal alongside legally permissible. And the reason we were given was because the consultants and the obstetricians need to know that the new maternity hospital is only for that purpose, for reproductive purposes and maternity purposes. But here we have dermatological clinics or suites or whatever they are will be sharing the space of the new maternity hospital. So that does not stack up. And I'm extremely worried that that wording will be left in. And whatever questions I have for you, it is again to ask you to remove that wording and to give a guarantee to the women of Ireland that clinically appropriate doesn't mean that some clinician or a team of clinicians make the decision over the women's lives, but that women have control themselves over decisions that need to be made. We just heard testimony of one very, very stark case of why that needs to be done. The other issue why I'm very concerned is that the Taoiseach said to us here the other day in questioning over this that we've inherited a health and maternity system that is overwhelmingly private and voluntary and has a history of religious and mostly Catholic influence. He told us that this is not ideally where we'd start from, but it is where we are. We are where we are. It seems that the health service that we have is just an artefact of our history, like the natural landscape. It's there, and so it's there, and there's nothing we can do about it. We have a dysfunctional and broken system for a reason, because political choices were made over the last 100 years by parties still in this House, and some not, that they would hand over chunks of vital public services to be run by the religious orders, namely health and education. And that wasn't an accident. It didn't happen like the mountains appeared in Kerry. It was politically and ideologically motivated. And this deal is committing to the continuation of that broken system. Private, often religious interests in the care of women's health, with the control to some extent over the choices that women want to make, not in their own ambit. So my opposition to this deal has hardened over the last week, and it hardened even more when you said yesterday that even if we fully owned the hospital, we couldn't guarantee that all services would be delivered. There's no guarantee except that it is in this one, because other HSE hospitals, 8 of them in fact you said, are not delivering reproductive care that should be legally available to women, i.e. abortions. I asked you in the corridor for the names of them. You couldn't remember them, but you said you'd send them to me. So far, I haven't received them. You then said to me, Deputy, the main reason why they're not delivering it is funding. Funding has been an issue for most of those hospitals. That is not the impression you gave Joe Public or the committee yesterday. The impression you gave was there was an ideological issue there that was crippling the HSE-run hospitals from delivering abortion care. And you have to square that circle. So we need more time, we need more discussion, we need more answers. There's a Byzantine complex structure with guarantees, golden shares, balances of a membership of the board, the exit of the sisters, the promise of an evolving secular group. All of this necessitated because of the utter determination of the insistence of St Vincent's healthcare group to hold on to the land and to refuse to gift it to the state. At least the nuns were willing to do that. They want to retain dominance, influence and control over the new National Maternity Hospital. And I know you don't want it. You probably think the way the Taoiseach does. We are where we are. We can't aspire to a fully state-owned and run hospital, but that's what you'd like. If that's what you'd like, then join us on the protest on Saturday at 2 o'clock outside the Dáil, where women in this country will be saying to the government, we have to move on and we have to move away from a failed old model with the suspicion and mistrust written all over it of the way business was done, and we need to control and own that land in its entirety.